first of all, just I know playing in Rupp Arena is kind of unique. Just maybe some of your first thoughts whenever you think about that arena.
Historic. Lots of big games played in there. Kids will recognize it. Be one of those games I do hope kids get their cell phone cameras out and kind of take some pictures of and get a picture on the logo. I think that's part of the experience. We've all got a little checklist, or when you get my age that you do, you got that little checklist of places you want to say that you played. So I'm excited for our kids to see it. It's you build it up in your head and you get in there a little bit and it's old. You forget how old the building is because it still looks so good on TV. So, I know the circumstances for Kentucky is not ideal to not have a home court advantage, a place where they shoot every day and play every day. So we need to take advantage of that for the 1 year we have it. But a cool experience for our kids for sure, and one I hope they take advantage of. We'll play it up. We've played there. I've been in that gym a few times playing and watching games. So we'll talk about the history of it.
Yeah, and then I know Kentucky. I mean, their record right now is 7-7, but they've really challenged themselves with a lot of tough games. I'm sure there's probably some real respect there for LZ from you.
Sure. No, she's trying to do what we talk about in our league meetings all the time about doing what's best for our league and go out and challenge yourself. And not everybody does. She does. They won the SEC championship 2 years ago. So, they've got a good people want to play Kentucky. She goes out and does it. She could certainly put together a schedule. They've got all the money in the world. They could buy games in there, but she doesn't do that. She goes out and challenges her team. It helps our league. A lot of respect for how she does it. And again, they're tested. Our group has learned not to look at records, really not even to look at common opponents. It's natural. They're going to look at Samford and we beat them by about a sim. That's fair. That's okay to do. But we all know from night to night how things can be. So they will have our respect simply because it's an SEC game. It is Kentucky. They all are worth one game. That's where we start this speech. You don't get a bonus point in the win-loss column for beating somebody that might be 14-0 as compared to somebody that's 7-7 overall. We're all back to 0-0. I know Kentucky will approach it that way. They are tested. They know where they've been through adversity. And I think that makes them a dangerous team. They're as healthy as they've been all year too. This is the first time I think I've looked at a box schedule or a box score from their last game against Samford and went, oh, they all played. So they're as healthy as they've been. I'm sure they've been building toward this. And I think we'll, like we did last year when we got up there for our first road game. It wasn't our first overall game, but faced a team that was prepared and had been through the challenge.
Dudley?
Hey, Coach, you talked a little bit about the other day, just the league in general. Talk about what you've seen out of the league, what you expect this year out of, another great crew, obviously.
I think overall we're sitting in, the conversation of being one of the top 3 leagues in the country with what our body of work is. I think you could argue for 2 other ones as well. But we've had some of our teams go out and challenge themselves and beat some top teams. We've got as many good wins as any league out there. We've got some tough losses though, too. We've got some losses that, we're going to have to explain to the committee when the time comes. So, but I do think overall our league went out and put together a schedule that we could get 6, 7, or 8 teams in the tournament, depending on how the league plays out. I don't think 9 or 10 is possible, like some years it might be. But I think we're going to be in that 6, 7, 8 range with what has happened in the non-conference. I think South Carolina, has established themselves. I think they've been unanimously ranked number 1 in both polls the last couple of weeks. I know LSU is, got a lot of media attention, but it's still they're the defending national champs. Tennessee's getting Rakia Jackson back healthy at the right time. Mississippi State's done what they've done. Ole Miss has done the top teams have done what they're supposed to do. I'm really overall, you look at the job Johnny did at Auburn and what Shea has done with Vanderbilt. Teams that have been traditionally picked at the bottom have gone out and scheduled well and got good wins too. So I do not think we have a bottom of the league. I think if anybody that's followed it tried to pick it from the bottom up, you'd get a wide range of who's at the bottom. There's not a clear cut. bottom of this league, which means the middle is going to be a war. And every game's going to be big. We did bring it up the other night, just one time. I told our team we would remind ourselves one time that we had 6 games last year decided on one possession, 3 points or less. And that some of those possessions were the third possession of the game and others were the 17th and others the last. But every play could win this game and every game could be the difference in whether you see your name on Selection Sunday. So we did talk about it because that sting was real last year and I don't want us to forget about it. I don't want us to dwell on it, but I do want it to motivate us. So I do hope to see today. This will be our first practice since we've wrapped up non-conference schedule. I hope to see a little bit more focus and a little more attention to detail and a little more value placed on every rep that we take to see that carry over. But I think you could put the Big 12's making a strong case right now. The Pac-12's in there along with us, the ACC and the Big 10. I mean, every coach in every league is going to say their league's the best. We all know that's a mathematical impossibility for all 5 of them to be the best. And but I think we're one of the better leagues at the top. And I'd be willing to stand up and argue that we could make a case for multiple bids come. I think we're 78 days out. I got to go back and check my math before I put it on the practice schedule. We've been counting down the days till Selection Sunday, kind of like with that NASA theme, the T-. I think we're down to 78 days. So lots going to happen between now and then. There's going to be upsets. There's going to be things we predicted, but that's what's great about sports. No matter how much it's changed over the last couple of years, you still got to go play the games.
Also, 15 non-conference games. Did you get what you wanted to out of the very different styles and all of that? And what do you think you got accomplished during that as far as improving the team from the start to now?
Great question. And yes, I do. We kind of took an inventory of that last couple of days. Various styles for sure, various matchups, various environments, quick turnarounds, long layoffs, a lot of things to challenge us and prepare us there. The 15 games is always a decision because you don't have to play that many, but kind of talk about what we did. Our kids do want to test themselves. So here's what I think we did learn, Dudley. I think our roles, and I'm going to have another check-in meeting with all of our kids, but I think they're pretty clearly identified. I mean, I think we know we're going to count on Saylor for 10 to 12 defensive rebounds a night. We're going to count on Talia to be able to create her shot 8 to 10 times a game. We're going to count on Sam and Mac to create for themselves and for others 15 to 20 times a game. They're both going to have, Mac's going to guard the other team's best perimeter player as long as she's not over 6'3". Saylor's going to guard this person. Miriam's going to protect the rim. I think our starters' roles are so clearly identified on what we need out of them and really starting to be accepted. I've seen so many positive things happen in the last 6 games that have convinced us that we're headed in the right direction. I still want more consistency, and that's going to come just because with reps. But with Jenna and Carly Keats coming in, giving us a backup there, again in another 180, Emery's going to practice today. I said the other day she might not practice. She is. So we're going to keep dealing with that. But I do think we need to get some depth, some of those roles a little bit clearly more defined. But I think our starters all know and respect what each other have to go out there and do. And then they're going about helping each other do it. I've seen Sam make so much growth in finding open shooters this year as opposed to sometimes in the past. She's gotten much more comfortable at doing it. In fact, the other night, I thought we were a little too unselfish. We had 3 or 4 drives to the basket that could have resulted in a layup. We were looking for kickouts. So that's a good sign. Now we got to go back and say, hey, go ahead and lay that thing in for the rest of the year. But I do think the 15 games gave us enough variety, put us in enough challenging situations. I think we're going to improve a lot in these next 2 weeks because we're not going to be in constant preparation mode. There's a couple of skill days dedicated to just working on us, not preparing for Kentucky. So without being in school and without being having, we obviously know our opponents, but a little bit more regimented Thursday, Sunday format. I think we're going to improve individually, which will improve us as a team. Kind of
Thanks.
put a bow on that.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Anyone have anything else? Go ahead, Ethan.
Yeah.
Can I hop? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
Oh, Daniel, you get it.
Daniel and
You
then
sure?
Ethan can follow.
Hey, coach, I was just wondering with invention of the portal and SEC starters going out, do you have to kind of change your message like pre-portal to post-portal as to how you is there less of a line of demarcation with conference play now that the talent's more spread out?
I hadn't thought about it, but yeah. I mean, I think, we saw that. Let's just use Zay Green. Let's just talk about her. That's a kid that played in our league at two different places, and now she's at a school that's not SEC. So, she's shooting up the draft boards, and you wouldn't normally see a player like that in the non-conference. I can go back to the first game of the year. They had 3 or 4 starters from the SEC on their roster. So, yeah, you're probably got onto something there, that there's not as big a chasm between the Power Fives and the not. Doug Bruno used to laugh all the time. He refused to call it Power Five. He called it Football Five, because he said there's some teams in the Elgin division that's not very powerful, and he was right. So, I think you see that in the net right now. If you look at where the net's at, there's a lot of teams that traditionally are not anywhere near the top 100 that are solidly in that. So, there might not be as big a jump, especially with us. We didn't play anybody outside the top 250 in the non-conference. I think, I don't know. I don't know where Coach Foley ended up, but I will bet y'all, Loaf and Joe's that they don't end up number 250 in the country after they go and win about 17 of their league games. But we played more top 150 teams than anybody I can find so far. I'm only about 40 teams through, but yeah, you're probably right, Daniel. There's probably not going to be as big a jump as what we faced in the past. I may use that with the team. I'll give you credit.
And then do you keep the net stuff to yourself, or do you all kind of openly talk about it amongst the team and things like that?
I used to talk about it openly to the team until Matt came in and told me to shut my damn mouth. They don't really care about it. They don't want to know. And she said, just keep that crap to yourself. But I've got it. I mean, if y'all looked at my desk in my office, I keep up with it. I watch it daily. I study it. Probably too much, to be honest with you. But I don't share it as much with the team. I make them ask me. I used to put it up. I used to publicize it and talk about it a lot. And there's just still a few people that want to know, but Max certainly ain't one of them. So I think the most of our part of the team just wants to go out and take it game by game, and they want me to know, but they don't necessarily want to know. So I can talk about it with y'all anytime you want to, though, because I've got it up on my board and I look at it every morning.
Thanks, Coach.
You got it.
And then Ethan, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just wanted to ask about Petty and Maddie Shear in general. I know they're having pretty good years for them. Just kind of thoughts on those two.
Well, Petty would get my vote, for the biggest jump from impact. She's obviously worked her tail off during the off season. She looks like a different player. I've always hated the most improved award because I used to get that at camp, because that meant you sucked before. And she certainly did not suck. She was a really good player, but she took it to another level, which is way harder than what I used to do. I used to be so bad that they had to give it to you because by the end of the week, at least you could dribble and shoot it. For what she did, she was already a good player, but she took it to another level. So, and then Maddie Shears, to me, always, that's a kid that, if we'd have gone out recruiting, all of us could pick out. She's healthy, I think, is the difference with her. The difference between her and being healthy and not healthy is the big part. But I think Petty, they're going to give a most improved award, and she's certainly going to be somebody you got to consider for it. I don't think it's aptly named, but her usage rate, they're playing through her. If you look at how many times they try to get it to her and get her touches around the basket, and then she creates a bunch of touches for herself by getting a bunch of rebounds. She's aggressive. She looks confident. And then, like I said, Shear, I think's always kind of had that about her. I think she's getting healthy, and they're kind of starting to figure out, how to best utilize her. To me, this is a team that also has very clear identification of their roles. You don't have to watch a whole bunch of film. You can watch one or two, and before long, you're predicting what's going to happen because they do what they do. They don't get outside themselves. They don't beat themselves. You have to do something to beat them. So those are both two kids that certainly deserve all the attention they've been getting.
Yeah, and then last thing that I have is, most teams hit big obstacles in league play. I mean, even LSU did last year. Just how do you think the team so far has done handling? They've had some adversity in the non-conference.
I'm been really proud of them. Like I said, that when in the past, sometimes when adversity would hit, we would pull apart. Adversity tends to pull us together a little bit. I think there's a couple of factors. I think our starters pretty much are comfortable. They know they're not going to come out for making a mistake. They might come out if they make the same mistake twice in a row or they don't try hard, but they're not second guessing their roles. It's kind of been established. So I think that gives them a comfort level. So when adversity does hit, it's not as maybe as challenging. They pick each other up better than most teams I've had, especially here with our teams here. And I think it's a sign of good leadership from Mac and Sam and Saylor and good fellowship. Fellowship doesn't get talked about enough a lot. It's always leadership that gets talked about, but fellowship is just as important. And I think Talia's been an amazing freshman follower. She hasn't stuck her nose in there where maybe sometimes freshmen would be frowned upon for having an opinion. She's just kind of listened and she's tried to help. Like she overpassed it the other night. I told her, I said, I don't know what you're thinking there, but we want you to lay that shot in there. We want you to try to get you kicked out a shot that I think you had a layup. She was like, and I know what's in the back of her mind. I know she's saying I'm going to try to get somebody else an open three, and that's great. But it's just as selfish. I tell them all the time, it's just as selfish not to shoot an open shot as it is to not throw it to somebody. So, and they're starting to reward each other with that. Like the way they talk to each other in practice has gotten to a point where I think when adversity hits us, there's not that panic. Like it's not going to kill us. Hey, we can survive this. Let's because we've been through it. And I'm glad that we went through the schedule the way we did. Y'all can predict, y'all can start looking, our schedules in the future going to look very much what this one did because of that reason. We got off to build some confidence. We got challenged. And then we've had some time to get it fixed before we went into the SEC. Last year, that didn't happen. Last year, we got challenged at the very end of it. We got exposed, but it took us a while to learn from it. So I hope we as coaches learned our lesson last year and carried over. But y'all know this 16 games, we break it down 4 at a time. And you have basically 4 quarters. First 4 games, next 4 games, middle 4 games, last 4 games. They're all worth the same amount. They all carry the same value, but everything gets amplified a little bit. And it's fun. It's a fun time of the year. I'm glad that we're not in school right now. We can spend extra time with each other, doing extra things off the court that are going to be necessary to handle the challenges that the SEC presents.
Writing down your Little Rock thing, by the way, because I'm a big Loaf and Joe's guy. So
there you go.
Hopefully it comes true.
Write it down, and there's no loser in this situation because we all get to eat.